So if you would take your seats. So good morning and welcome to our first Women's Business Conference. We are just thrilled and delighted to see all of you here. A conference designed by women for women and masterminded by a woman as well. So today's event is co-sponsored by Houston Community College, our Centers for Entrepreneurship, and the Houston Small Business Administration, as well as our strategic partners, SCORE. We have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative, WBEA, Women's Business Enterprise Alliance, the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce, TIE, and the Houston Angel Network. They were all instrumental in helping us promote this program. So today we're going to learn and experience from two extraordinary women business owners, Lori Clements and Christina Morales. These are incredible women that have made an impact, they have made a difference, they are reaching out to help other women and are really incredible role models and trailblazers. So I think you're going to find the day to be really a wonderful one. Before we introduce our speakers, I wanted to bring up Valerie Marr. She is the Small Business Administration Lead Economic Development Specialist and the mastermind behind today's event. So Lori, I know you wanted to make some remarks.
Thank you, Maya. So good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Marr, and I'm with the Houston District Office for the Small Business Administration. So I want to take a few minutes and give you a quick overview of what SBA does to help small businesses. So we have kind of three avenues, three main programs I want to highlight. The first being counseling. So we, through our resource partners, are able to provide free counseling to business owners, whether you just have an idea or you're ready to take your business to the next level. These three organizations are SCORE, and they have a table in the back, so I encourage you to visit with them today. Small Business Development Centers, their acronym is SBDC, so you'll hear that, and also the Women's Business Center. These three organizations are provided funding by SBA to be able to counsel you for free. So if you haven't engaged with a mentor, with a counselor, or with an advisor, I encourage you to become more familiar with these organizations because their sole purpose is to help you start and grow your business, just like the SBA's. Our second avenue to help you start and grow your business is access to capital. So SBA, we don't make the loan, we don't give you the loan, but we empower over 130 lenders in the Houston area to work with you to gain access to those loans. Last year in Houston, we did just under $1 billion in SBA lending. That's just here in Houston. So the lenders are out there to help you. We are here to help you connect to those lenders. Thirdly, to grow your business, you may want to look into federal contracting. So we have different certification programs like the 8A Business Development Program, Women-Owned Small Business Program, Service Disabled Veteran, and Hub Zone. So there's mechanisms to help you grow your business through federal contracting. Last year, the federal government bought $500 billion in goods and services, and $100 billion is set aside for small businesses. So it's a great avenue to be able to grow your business, and we have resources that can help you do that for free. So that's just a quick overview of what SBA can do for you, but I want to put it in perspective by talking about a couple women-owned small businesses here in the Houston area that have leveraged our resources to help them start and grow. So there's a woman named Carrie Tate Barkley. She is the owner of French Cuff Boutique. It's a women's apparel and accessories boutique. She started as an HR professional at Shell, but her passion was clothing. So she would work at Shell during the day, but at night and on the weekends, she would sell clothes. She decided in 2007 she was going to quit her corporate job and focus on starting a business, which she did. But to get there, she started doing research. She came across the SBA website. From there, she connected with SCORE. She attended a SCORE workshop. They do this workshop one Saturday every month. It's starting and managing your small business. It's a Saturday workshop, low cost. It's all day. And that's where Carrie really started to understand the fundamentals of business. From there, she got herself a SCORE mentor. This was a mentor whose expertise was in fashion and retail. So she found someone that was well suited to what she was about to embark on. Her SCORE mentor found her an internship with a local fashion retailer. He helped her to write her business plan. He helped her to develop her marketing strategies and her overall business development strategies. Only a year later, in 2008, she got a loan to open her first location in Bel Air. A couple of years later, she opened her second location in the Galleria area. And in 2015, she opened her third location in Town and Country. She went from 3 employees to over 20 employees, and her goal is to open 5 locations. So you can see she leveraged the free resources that are here available in this room to start her business and take her business to the next level. She took on risk, she took on debt, she was married, she had 2 kids, so she was balancing all this while still raising her family. So that's just one example of what SBA and our resources, specifically SCORE, can help you do. Secondly, I wanted to highlight another local business owner. Her name is Denise Navarro. She's the owner of Logical Innovations. When she launched her business, she applied and was accepted to the 8A program. So the 8A program is a 9-year program where you work with someone in our office for those 9 years to help you gain access to federal contracts. So the 9 years that Denise was in the program, she won over $100 million in government contracts. She went from 3 employees to over 300, and she went from 1 office here in Houston to a total of 5 nationwide. Her clients include NASA, Department of Transportation, and the Environmental Protection Agency. So again, leveraging those resources that are available to you. And we have, with the SBA here today, Miguel Ruiz, who's back at our table. He is our contracting expert. So if you want to know more about the 8A program, Women-Owned Small Business Hub Zone, please talk to us later today. And then she doesn't know I'm going to call her out, but another successful women-owned small business is right here in this room who has leveraged SBA resources. Marche Warfield, Satori Marketing. She has grown, raise your hand, she has grown over 47% just in the past year. And she just went through our Emerging Leaders program, which is a program designed to help small businesses that are ready to grow. So again, just another example of utilizing the resources that are here in this room, and not just SBA, not just SCORE, but the others that are here today. So we have some great guest speakers coming up, and I just want to give you a quick SBA overview. We'll be here all day, and when we break for lunch, please find SBA reps, sit with us, talk to us about what you do, where you want to go. So thank you.
So it's my great pleasure to introduce you today to our first speaker, Christina Morales. She is the president of the Morales Memorial Foundation. Christina took the reins of the Felix Morales Funeral Home when she was only 23 years old. The Felix Morales Funeral Home is the oldest family-owned Hispanic funeral home in the state of Texas. Her drive and commitment and ability to empathize enabled her to build a business grounded on care and personal attention. She created the Morales Foundation and the annual back-to-school supplies giveaway that has helped thousands of children in her community. She serves on the HCC Board of Foundation. She's one of the board directors. She's a graduate of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Initiative Program out of Cohort 10. She was named the 2015 Women on the Move, and she's a real pillar of the community who has built a phenomenal family legacy, and she's going to share her story. Her signature quote is, "Good or bad, our life story defines who we become. Use your story to become amazing." Please help me to welcome the amazing Christina Morales.
Hi, and welcome everyone. And pardon me, I have to put on my cheaters. I'm really so glad that you could be here today to join us, and I'm just very honored that HCC reached out to me and gave me this opportunity to tell you my story. Thank you, Maya and Brenda Rios. I know she's here somewhere. She was the one who was my first contact here, and I was like, me? Really? You want me to get up and speak in front of women business owners? Awesome. But mostly I want to congratulate all of you for making the effort to learn more, to grow, being open to growing your business and managing your time, and just being open to becoming more successful, because that's what you can be. Again, my name is Christina Morales, and I'm actually the president and CEO of the Morales Memorial Foundation and the Morales Funeral Home. And after my presentation, which I don't do this often, we're going to have a long time for questions and answers. So if we can. So my story begins with my grandparents. They were the founders of the funeral home. And I love this quote that was written about my grandmother. It says, "Don't mention glass ceilings to Angela Morales. She went from dirt poor to millionaire." That was something that was written about her I was very proud of. So I am the granddaughter of Angela and Felix Morales. So why did my grandparents get buildings named after them? I'm going to tell you a little bit about their accomplishments, which were really huge at the time. There weren't a lot of Hispanic business owners during their time. And in 1931, they opened the first Hispanic-owned funeral home and cemetery. They were able to serve their community in this way. My grandfather's father had passed away when he was a young man. He was actually a young boy. He was only 7 years old. His older brother recognized that when they had the funeral service, their customs were not honored because they were Hispanic, they were Mexican descent. And his older brother decided they should open a funeral home. It was in New Braunfels, Texas. And eventually, all of the brothers would leave New Braunfels and they would go to different cities, and my grandparents decided they would go to Houston, and everybody laughed at them because they thought it was an old cow town. So little did everybody know that it would be the fourth largest city in the nation. So it was the perfect place for them to start their business. They leased a house and borrowed electricity. She said they had a cord, to their business. They did everything they could. It was $100 that they borrowed from his brother to come to Houston, and a hearse. And it's a crazy story, but they did do it. Eventually, my father would be the first Hispanic to be named to the Pasadena Hall of Fame. They had ties to Pasadena through their radio station. They were the first Hispanics to win a contract from the Harris County Commissioner's Court. And this was a huge deal, just like we were talking about somebody winning all the government contracts. This is really a big deal for a small business owner, and they were able to achieve that. They also created, they were very concerned about their community, and they created a society where Hispanics could pay $5.20 a year for funerals. So would pay this yearly due, and then at the time of their death, they would receive a free funeral. Of course, we can't do that anymore, but it did exist for a little while. So the biggest thing, it's the smallest thing on this chart here, but they launched the area's first Hispanic radio station. So my grandfather became a funeral director and a funeral home owner because it was kind of his family legacy, and he wanted to carry it on. But his passion was to be a disc jockey and sing, believe it or not. So it took them 10 years, from 1940 to 1950, to get their FCC license to have a radio station. It was a long process, but they finally made it, and it was the first Spanish language radio station in the entire Gulf Coast. And I really can't tell you how huge this was, because you have to imagine that there were so many immigrants coming from mostly Latin countries speaking Spanish, and this was the only way that they could know what was going on. This was how they knew what was going on in their homeland. This is how they could get jobs. My grandmother was brilliant. She started the Yo Necesito Trabajo program, which means I need a job. And so people would call into the radio station and say, you know, I'm a lawn keeper, I can work for somebody. And then a person who needed a lawn keeper would call in, so they would just kind of connect the two. And I've had people come into the funeral home and tell me that their father retired from the job he got from Yo Necesito Trabajo. So it was a really, really important program for people who didn't have another way to get a job, but also to learn what was going on in the city that they lived in. A hurricane is coming. If you can't understand the news, or you don't read the newspaper, or you can't read, period, you could listen to this radio station and know, I need to prepare for, you know, what's going to happen. So it was very, very important. My grandmother here, she was one of the first Hispanic women in the county, not the state or anything like that. It was the county. There was another woman who graduated at the same time she did, but she received her funeral director and embalmer's license in 1942. And let me show you how rare it was for women to get that license. If you look very closely, they had to scratch out his, and then she wrote her above it. So, yeah. Wow, to fill her shoes, you know. But yeah, she was a woman ahead of her time, and I'm very proud of this certificate, and it hangs in our funeral home today. So these are my parents, my beautiful parents. They, Joe and Lorraine Morales. They should have carried on the business at some point after my grandparents would have stepped down. But sadly, they passed away, my father in 1979 and my mother in 1984. So by the time I was 15 years old, I was basically an orphan. It wasn't later until I was about 18 years old that my grandmother reached out to me, and she took me under her wing. She knew that her life expectancy wasn't great anymore. She was nearing her death, and she knew somebody had to carry on the family legacy, which was so important to her. So I was 24 years old, and I was the president of Morales Funeral Home. And that's me during that time. So this picture was taken just before her passing. And if you look very closely, the HCC symbol is on there because she was receiving a proclamation from the community college. And this was the day that the Felix H. Morales building was dedicated. She was so proud. It was a wonderful, wonderful day for her to see her husband recognized in that way. And luckily I was able to be there right by her side. She didn't know it at the time, but she would pass on. a couple of months later, well, actually a few months later, and I'm so happy to say that at that time, the Southeast campus of HCC just had the Felix H. Morales building. It was to full capacity, which was very great news for me. I was glad to see that people in our community were more concerned about education, and the HCC was thriving there. So eventually, they made the second building, which was right behind it, and they named it the Angela V. Morales Building. So she never got to see that, but it was really, that was also a wonderful day. So if you look at me there, I'm very confident. I was the most confident business owner at 24, let me tell you. I thought I knew everything because I had just graduated from mortuary college, and here I am walking into this business that had been around for 50 years, and the only thing I could do was make it better with everything I had just learned. And it was better. There were a lot of things that were better. I was able to use new techniques and, just new ways of doing things that were better, and I improved the business for a good while. I even raised my family during that time, so it was a wonderful time. But eventually things change. People changed, the neighborhood changed, there was way more competition. For a long time, we were the only Hispanic funeral home in the city. There was 2, actually. And now there's like 10. So be prepared for those things as small business owners. I ended up struggling for a while and a little desperate to find out what I needed to do. So I do want to take a moment to commend those of you who start your businesses from scratch, because I walked into a business that was 50 years old, and to be quite frank with you, a funeral home business usually is foolproof. The failure rate is very low, and also it's pretty recession-proof. So many of you, take huge risks and start your businesses from scratch. So I wanted to take a moment, and if there's anyone who wants to share how you're feeling about starting your business or taking over maybe an existing business. Is there anybody who would like to share a story or feelings? No? Yes? I hear laughs. Yes, go ahead, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll share. I used to be a teacher for 15 years, and I'm now in the financial education sector. But one thing that I noticed is that there's a lack of women, one, and second, Hispanic representation in that industry.
Yes.
I mean, your average life insurance salesman is 55 years old, Anglo-American. And so that's a lot of barriers that I had to cross when I started working the business. And so it's something that you don't think about, but those are those invisible walls that you just have to break through. And that's just something that I've learned to stand my ground and know that I have the same license as you, and that I could speak 2 languages. So just that.
Absolutely. And you know what? You could probably raise a family too and still work at the same time. I'm sorry, but I know it's changed. My daughter's a career woman now, and she's like, I'm never having children, but many of us from my generation, we raised kids and we worked, and we couldn't help it. We were the ones changing the diapers and making dinner, when we got home. And I remember those days, and I'm like, wow, how did I do that? Because I couldn't do it anymore now. But we had to do both of those things. And then as Latinas, we have to know both languages very well, or we're not respected the same. Either the Hispanic people don't respect us because we don't speak the language, or, trying to deal in a market where there's mostly English-speaking people, that's very tough too, which I'm sure many of you have similar stories. Does anybody else want to share a little bit about their struggles as a new business owner or taking over a business? Okay, please.
After being in the banking industry for 25 years, or close to 30, I would say, there was a life event change for me. My husband got very ill, and so he ended up being in the hospital. He was the one also running his business. I handle a little bit of the books, but not so much the retail on his side. So I had to walk in his shoes when he was in the hospital ill. So I was balancing my regular work plus his business plus trying to take care of things in the hospital. So it got chaotic for a while there.
Yes. There you go.
So ended up, because it was a long process, I had to step down from leave my work after so many years in the banking industry as a branch manager. I stepped down to take care of him full time because there was no other way. The more that I looked around, thank you. The more that I, looked at everything, I had to step down and stop my career. But things happen for a reason, I believe. When you go through struggles, makes you stronger, makes you see that you thought you could not get out of that situation, and then doors start opening. I got an opportunity, a changing career, and started doing, with my sister, she invited me. So we started doing real estate. So now I'm in real estate as an investor. And what I love, what I do is that you help a lot of families in desperate situations that sometimes, having to deal with, especially after Harvey, a lot of families left without, thinking, do I fix my house or what do I do? So that's where I came in. I volunteered, helping out during that time, and was assisting, giving them information, because a lot of times, even though you hear it on the news or the radio, you still, when you tell the person this is where you need to call, you don't have a cell phone, here's my call so you can get some help. And so I was doing it all this time, and that really has helped reaching out. And it is kind of hard when you have to balance two languages, and because I'm not from Mexico yet, I'm not, and then I'm from here, so you have to balance two worlds, and that can get complicated.
It really can. I think as women, we're really good multitaskers, and we're able to do a lot of things. So I commend you. That's a lot to take on. Take over your job and your husband's job and then find something new. Something you touched on was Harvey, and I know through the Goldman Sachs program we learned that a lot of businesses can thrive during a natural disaster. And we're not saying that we're excited there was this natural disaster, but there's needs out there. And if you can learn how to help people who have those needs, it's an opportunity for you. So, remember those kind of things. So before I move on, I'll give one more chance. If anybody wants to share a story, we have someone here.
I wanted to share my story because it's very difficult. Most people don't know, as an African American trying to start your business, there's a lot of mental issues you have to get past, and also some physical. But I lived in an impoverished area, and coming from a place of being depressed, and that there's more for you than what you are experiencing. And for me, it was a fight for my life to come out of that place. Normally when you're in there, you hear so much statistics, so many things about, being an African American and starting businesses, that it kind of discouraged you. But because I had 4 kids that I needed to provide for, and I knew I needed a different lifestyle, and I had a gift that I knew that I could give to other people, I decided to quit my job in accounting, just up and quit. I gave them a month notice. Wow. And then I realized, no, this is not gonna work. So I went back the same week and told them I'm gonna quit in the next 5 days, and I stepped out. But things started happening at home. My children, because of the area they were in, my son was getting jumped to get in a gang. Then my daughter got stabbed in the hand. So I knew then I had to retract that month notice and take out a week. I pulled my kids out. I homeschooled them for a year and a half. They didn't like that. They wanted to go back to school, so I sent them back, and I took that opportunity to work on myself. I had to find out who I was and what I wanted to do. As a wife, we get so caught up and lost in being a wife, being a mother, being a mentor. We wear many hats. Yeah. But at that point, I shut down everything. I changed my number. I sat down and I realized, what was it that I wanted to do? I was tired of just catering to other people, and I was like, this is my time. I'm gonna sit down, think about what I wanted to do. I was married, so I was able to, it gave me a leeway. But I finally decided that I was good in business as a business consultant. And then I started hearing all this, oh, it's gonna be hard, you know, you're African American, and I'm just like, those are false beliefs. I'm not gonna tie myself to, I'm not gonna stop myself because I'm an African American, because that underneath this color, I am a being, a human being. So I got past the race issue. I got past a couple of other mental things like, who's gonna wanna hear from me? Like, how am I gonna get clients? But I finally got past that and just stepped out and did it. And I remember hearing Steve Harvey, The Jump. And so I just jumped, and I knew my parachute was gonna come out. I didn't know when, but I knew my parachute was gonna come out. And I started by going to SCORE. I actually went to SCORE in the Palm Center, and I was just like, I don't know what to do, where to start. And they really guided me. And once I only went one time. It only took one time that SCORE gave me the advice that I needed, and I took off. And from there, I've had challenges, but they're being like little small challenges. But because I was so determined, and I finally got out of the impoverished area, and I was just like, I knew that this is what I was supposed to be doing.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. And that raises a good point. Surround yourself with positive people who are going to tell you the right things. Yeah, you don't need any negativity like that in your life. Thank you. Those were great. I thought nobody's going to share their story, and we had some really good ones. That's why my thing is, you know, use your story to become amazing, because we do need to tell our stories as small business owners. It's so important to let people know where we're coming from. That makes them want to do business with you. So I want to share with you some tips that, just to give you some tips about being a small business owner. First of all, find a mentor. It's so important. Don't invent the wheel. Somebody has gone through some of the same challenges that you're going through right now in your business, and use their advice, use their experiences to empower yourself, because they want to help you. And find those people that want to help you. So this one's really important. Balance. You have to find some balance in your work and family life, because at the end of the day, those relationships are so important. Your relationship with your husband or your significant other, your relationship with your children, with your family. I can't tell you, I'm in the funeral business. I see people at the end of their lives, and those relationships matter the most at the end of your life. So don't ignore those, and try to respect and take care of those things. So can anybody tell me, give me a good reason, like one word, why you want to be or why you are a small business owner? Why are you an entrepreneur? Freedom. That's the word I was looking for, and it came out right at the beginning. That's absolutely right. We are small business owners because we want the freedom to do what we want, when we want. That's right. We work the hours we want. We can make our own time. Don't ever forget that. That is the number one reason that we are small business owners. Use that freedom to take care of your relationships, your family, and your health. You can't run a business if you're not healthy. So important. Of course, there are other tools to help you too. And I'm looking at the tables here. I think you should visit all of these tables back here, because they're out here to help you. don't try to do it alone. There are tools out there. There's capital. There's many, many things to help small business owners, and especially many of you women. It's out there. I can attest to that. So I love this slide that Paula, where is she? She's somewhere, my assistant. Oh, she's back there. Thank you so much. It's interesting because she put this PowerPoint together, so thank you. But I love this because if you look at the corner here, it's a woman helping another woman, so that's the mentorship piece. Community is so important. But I like the middle piece, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses. So when I mentioned earlier that I was struggling in my business after I had many years of doing well, I was Googling and I was like, okay, I need more business knowledge. I need to know how can I get to the next level with my business. And luckily I came across the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and it was right here at HCC. So this kind of gives you a breakdown of what who the small businesses are that they help. So it's to help 10,000 small businesses across the nation, and right now I believe they're at almost 7,000. So there's still room for everybody here. So go apply today. The age range of the participants are 24 to 77 years old. So it's great. There's about half male and half female. Slightly more male, so we need to catch up, ladies. But you can see where 80% of them either founded or co-founded their businesses. 52% started their businesses alone. And 27% started their businesses with others. I encourage you to Google this and look up the information. I wanted to share for you a little bit about the curriculum. Let's see here. So the curriculum, it's divided into modules, and I would say it's about a 3-month program, and I remember going once a week and dedicating that time, which when I started the program, I thought, how can I be away from my business for a whole day? You know, it seemed impossible, but it was possible, and it was the best thing that I did. So in the first modules, they're divided into modules, you'll learn more about you and your business. You'll even learn that you need to know everything about your competition. Do you know everything about your competition? You should. You get to know your business from a different angle, and you make some friends in that first mod that could become your friends for life. Many of you don't get to interact with small business owners. You're usually dealing with employees or your clients, and those people don't share the same frustrations that you have as a business owner. So it's really great to be able to talk to other people who understand where you're coming from, and they become really, really good friends. I have many from my class. You'll also learn how important networking is. So I'll tell you, as a funeral home owner, people don't want to network with me. What am I going to sell them, you know? So I always had an issue with that, but here I am today speaking in front of you. It's not always about trying to, you know, wish death on everybody. It's just, you know, a friend of their friend may know your business or what you do and then refer them back to you. So networking is so, so important, and I waited too long to network. So please get out there and network. And I know there's some introverts in the room. Get out of your shell. Get out there. You're the face of your business, so please do that. Another thing you learn is your leadership style. What kind of leader are you, you know? Do you just tell everybody what to do? Do you micromanage? I mean, there's so many different styles of leadership, and once you can recognize the type of leader you are, you can just become a better one, and you'll know better how to deal with your employees. I like how it's the people is right in the middle, because let me tell you, if you have employees, and I know some of you work alone, but having the right people as the center of your business. So you'll learn a lot about hiring, developing, and retaining the right employees. You'll also learn about marketing and selling. So marketing was one of the huge takeaways I had because, again, networking and marketing for a funeral home is just odd to me. Well, it was for many years. But I did start marketing and I saw the increase in our business. I can't tell you how important marketing is, and especially depending on the kind of business that you have. If you're a business to consumer, where you're dealing with customers, you definitely need marketing. And Google yourself. How many of you Google yourself? Google yourself, Google your business. What are they saying about your business? You need to know these things. That, I don't care how small your business is, you need to Google yourself and you need to know what people are saying about you. Operations and processes was so fun. I went home after this class, or went back to my office the next week, and I got a bunch of Post-it notes, and I went through on my wall in my office and shared everything, or wrote down everything, the process that my client goes through when they come to see me. How do they get a hold of me? They call my business, they Google my business. It was all written out so I could see it, and I could see where can we do better on this chart? What kind of things can I do better when I'm looking at the process that people go through when they deal with my business? You need a good person answering the phone. You need to have a good website. Little things like that you don't think about, you will learn and benefit from. You can also learn about being bankable and valuating your business. How many of us know what our business is worth? That's a very, very important thing to know. Also, your exit plan. We had to write ours down at the first day of class. Do any of you have an exit plan? Exit strategy. I saw Sarah Blakely speak at we had a summit for all the small business owners around the nation, and she's the founder of Spanx. I love Spanx. So I was like, oh, I love you. And she said, she didn't know what an exit strategy was when she started her business. And when someone asked her, she thought, well, my exit strategy is that I look good when I walk out of the room, when I exit the room. I loved it because she was showing how, she didn't know everything, and look at the multi-million-dollar company that she has now. So think about those things. So in order to graduate from the program, you need a growth plan. And this really pushes you to put down on paper what your plan is for growth. It's so important to write these things down, make a business plan. How many of you have your business plan? Good. Don't lie. So, one of the phrases that I took away wholeheartedly, and I love, and I never forget, and I share it with all of my friends, and they love it too, was learn how to work on the business and not in the business. And, a simple thing like, I thought about it today because the cleaning lady was coming today. So I don't spend my time at home cleaning my house because I can do things where I can be more productive or help other people or make money. That's the bottom line. So you can find people to do some of the other jobs. You need to be the face of your business. You need to be out there networking and showing people, telling people your story so that they will want to do business with you. So don't waste your time on those small jobs. It really helped me and empowered me to hire more people, hire the right people, train them the way I wanted them, let them learn how I like to operate, and then I was able to have more free time to go out and be at something like this today. So that is very, very important. And it takes a while to get there. It does not happen overnight, I know, but get to that point. Very, very important. So with help from the Goldman Sachs program, We did redo our website, and if you look at our website, it will tell you that we've honored 15,000 lives. We've been serving the community for 87 years, and through our brand new, wonderful website, 35,000 moments have been remembered for loved ones. So I did complete my growth plan after I graduated. It was to build out an additional space at my funeral home, which we completed and has been very successful. And now we're on to our second plan for growth. So yes, this program helped me. So going back to building a legacy for your business, I'm the third generation of my business. My nephew works with me, he's the fourth, and I have grandsons, and maybe they'll be the fifth. So along with marketing comes community outreach, and I can guarantee you that your clients care about what you're doing in the community. It's important. Give back. Find something that you are passionate about. My grandmother set up a foundation to give back to the community, and of which I'm the president. And one of the things I created was the back to school supply giveaway, and we do it there at the funeral home. We close down business that day, and in the parking lot, we have at least 2,000 kids come through and pick up a package of school supplies. I'm currently serving on many boards, including the Houston Planning Commission, of which I'm a commissioner. I'm a board member of the East End Foundation, the Buffalo Bayou Partnership, the Houston Community College Foundation, and the Houston Independent School District Foundation. I'm on a lot of boards. In addition to that, I try to serve as a mentor whenever possible. I'm also involved with the Latino Texas PAC. And on my own, me and a couple of girlfriends created Latinas in Power. And what we do is we get together maybe once a quarter, and we talk to leaders in the community. We've met with the superintendent of HISD. We've met with the HCC chancellor. We've met with the chief of police, and we let them know that we're behind you. We want to know what you're doing in the community and what can we do to help you. That's the level you need to get at, when you can pull the mayor aside and say, hey, you know, we need to talk to you about these things. We're concerned about our community. That's where I am, and I encourage you to do the same. So over the last 20 years, we've given out 20,000 packages of school supplies. And what we did is we researched what does an HISD student need to start school for each grade. So we give out supplies that are particular to the grade, and they'll have everything that they need for their school year. And we really take a lot of pride in doing that, because it does take research and ordering the supplies several months ahead of time. This year, fortunately, the mayor joined us. There's the sheriff and the superintendent. We even have one of our HCC trustees here, and some of our board members, and a city councilwoman. It was really one of our best events yet. I became very passionate about this because when my parents passed away when I was 15, shortly thereafter I dropped out of high school. So I knew that there's a need there. Kids are in school. They might not have parents, or they might have parents that are very supportive, and they need some type of encouragement to stay in school. And I thought that it's always fun to start off the school year with all your school supplies, and that's why we started this program. So this is probably one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's a once-a-year event, and it really is a lot of fun. So that's it. That's my funeral home there. And please take down my email address. You can email me. I'm Facebook all the time. You can look me up on Facebook, Christina Morales on Facebook, and follow our funeral home page. And I'm always open to lend a hand, offer advice. So please do networking events, at many of them, and so I can share those with you. And we have a few minutes, so if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any. Anyone? Sure.
What was your greatest struggle with starting out, and how did you overcome it?
Since I walked into a business that was already in existence, I think that I was pretty confident at the very, very beginning. But when I did come to that point where I was struggling, luckily Google and the internet was around, and I was able to look for things, and I came across the program. I waited too long to find a mentor, but I think mentorship is so important. And another person in the neighborhood, she's since passed away, but a dear friend of mine, she was also a small business owner. And I was able to ask her questions and ask her for help. And she was the one that talked to me about community service and giving back to the community and being a pillar of the community. So, and my business is different. It's a funeral home. It's a tangible business there, so it's not like an online business or anything. So it's important to be respected in the community and find those people, surround yourself with positive people, and find mentorship and programs like the ones that are back here. Anyone else? No? Question? Okay, well, I do want to thank you so much for your time today. I do really wish you all much success. Remember that small businesses are the backbone of America, just like all the politicians say, and we do pay our taxes. and we can do this. Thank you.
So we're going to move to our next guest speaker, Lori Clements. Lori has led companies from startups and private equity-backed firms to turnarounds and growth stage companies across 9 industries and 7 countries. Before founding her own business, Springboard Solutions, she was a vice president and COO for 2 innovative healthcare IT companies, a president of a Texas-wide services company, and a CFO responsible for securing investment capital for solar energy plants. Lori chairs the Rice Entrepreneurial Organization Business Roundtables, and she was named a 40 Under 40 in 2013 and a Woman to Watch in 2016, both by the Houston Business Journal. Lori's interactive style and real-world insight make her workshops a must-attend event for growth-oriented entrepreneurs everywhere. So please welcome Lori.
Thank you, Valerie. And thank you again, Christina, for sharing your story. That was amazing. Please join me. One more round of applause for Christina. So I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me. What I'd like to talk to you about today kind of ties in with what Christina was talking about. Setting lots of goals, getting what you want from your business. So my goal for you today is to give you the context and structure to scale up your business with some practical tools you can start using today. Does everybody have a workbook? Okay, thank you. So you want to all get a workbook, and we'll follow along with that workbook today, because what we're going to do is we're going to make this very much about you, custom tailored to your business. So just so you know a little bit about me, I've been in your shoes. I've led companies of a variety of sizes, and I've had to scale up ops departments from 1 to 18 people in a year and grow service volume 400% over 2 years. And what I realized through all these ups and downs, the good times when you're winning contracts and growing like crazy and you can barely hire enough people to get the job done, to the times that are a little bit tougher, the times when cash flow is starting to dry up. So you don't pay yourself, and so that you can pay the rest of your team. What I realized during all of these ups and downs is that I have a passion for helping business owners solve their problems. I love executing with precision, and I want to help other business owners and women owners particularly to help avoid some of the headaches and the pitfalls that I went through. So when I was leading a transportation company, I was introduced to this system called EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System. I loved it. I was so intrigued, so I implemented it in my business. And it worked so well that when I left that business to become the COO of a healthcare IT company, I brought the tools with me. I was thrilled to realize they worked again in a completely different industry. By the time I'd used these tools in 3 businesses, I realized I was really on to something. And for me, it's about impact. I felt like I could have a bigger impact sharing my experience with these tools with other businesses instead of just keeping them to myself in my one business. So I quit the executive world and I went out on my own. I love how, somebody told me once, you have to think about who you take risks on and ask yourself, why am I not taking a risk on myself? So that's what I did. I took a risk on myself and I started my business, and I'd love to share with you some of what I've learned today. All right, so to start this out, I want to ask you a very important question. If you would, pop open your workbooks. The first page is a notes page. So here's my question. What is it that you want from your business? And when you go to answer this question, pause for just one moment because I've got 2 criteria. The first is, I want you to think of a time frame that's a little ways out. If you haven't started your business yet, or if you're still relatively new, 5 years is probably as far out as you want to go. But if you've been in business for a few years, take it maybe to 8, 10, or 15 years out. So something on the horizon, what it is you want from your business, and then also, please don't give me a bullet point list of 8 things. It's got to be one thing. So what one thing do you want from your business in an appropriate time frame? Take a minute to write that down. All right, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. So if you're still thinking, that's okay. Let that idea percolate. We'll revisit it in just a moment. All right, so as I was working in different businesses, as I was spending more and more time with entrepreneurs, I noticed there's really 2 camps of business owners. There's this first camp of business owners that they really love what they're doing. They seem fulfilled and they seem really alive and to get energy from running their business. And then there was this other camp that I kept running into. And those business owners wanted to feel alive and in love with their business, but in actuality, they were feeling really frustrated. And I noticed some commonalities with the frustrations I would hear. So the first is lack of control. They felt like instead of being able to run their business, the business was running them. They felt like things were spinning out of control. The next is profit, or rather lack thereof. They were working really hard, they were doing all the right things, but they just didn't feel like they were bringing home the profit that the business should bring home. The next is people. And every one of my clients and almost every business I've worked with, they have some kind of people frustration. It might be that you feel like your employees aren't listening. It might be that you feel like you can't find the right people for your business. Maybe it's an issue with vendors or partners that are giving you pushback or not doing what they said they were going to do. Whatever that people issue is, I noticed it kept coming up. And especially if any of you are involved in family-run businesses like Christina, that makes it extra tricky, right? Because now You've got to figure out a way to get along and still like each other at the holidays. Extra complexity. The next is hitting the ceiling. This feeling of, my business was going, and I was growing, and I was adding clients, loving life, and then all of a sudden, it's like I just hit a ceiling. And sometimes you see this at the worst time, like when you're trying to sell your business, and you need to show increasing revenues, and then all of a sudden, it's like somebody hit the brakes. The next frustration I would see a lot is nothing's working. And this kind of comes from, maybe you've got a business owner who's reading all the books, right? Maybe you guys are this way, reading lots of books, trying lots of new exciting ideas, but you feel like nothing's working, and you've created kind of this flavor of the month type feel in your organization. So your employees are all a little fatigued with all the new ideas that keep getting thrown at the business. So what I want for you ladies is I want you to be in that first group of entrepreneurs. I want you to feel fulfilled with your work. I want you to make the impact that you started this business to make. We all want something different. So I want you to ask yourself what it is you want. Is it about getting those first few clients? Is it about scaling up? Is it about creating a legacy and passing a business on to your children? Whatever it is for you, it's a personal question. But if we don't ask ourselves that question when we start off, we're never going to answer it properly. So, if any of these frustrations hit home, these 5 frustrations, I have to tell you that this system will revolutionize your business. This model, this EOS model, is the absolute closest thing I found to address all of these frustrating things. And let me explain to you what I mean. The EOS model was really the result of a discovery. And the discovery is this. Business owners are faced with a myriad of issues. Call it 136 issues a week. But to the extent that they can strengthen what was discovered to be the 6 key components of successful businesses, those myriad of issues, they really melt away. Because what they are is they're a symptom of a weakness in one of those 6 key areas. So what I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to walk you through those 6 key areas. I'll give you an overview first, and then I'll come back and I'll get into the exact tools and disciplines so that you can have some tools that are customized to your business and walk away today with an innovative plan for how you're going to revolutionize your business. Oh, and by the way, the example that Valerie was talking about, Carrie Tate Barkley of French Cuff Boutique, she runs her business on this system. So you see it in the community. Thousands of businesses run on this system. I saw it in 3 before I decided I had to do this full time. So lots of examples in the community, lots of other women you can talk to about with this system. Okay, so first and foremost, at the top of the model is vision. What I mean by that is where is your company going, but also how are you going to get there? Next is people. And what I mean by that is really what are the right people for your business? We have a wide variety of businesses represented today. Catering, marketing communications, PR, interior design. So the right people for you might be vastly different from what the right people are for the person sitting next to you. So we're going to discover what the right people are for your business today. Next is data. And what I mean by that is giving you a weekly pulse on the business so that you know which direction your business is headed, you can get ahead of your problems, and we can make smarter, more data-driven decisions. Now, when people, vision, and data are strong, the things that really aren't working in our business, those barriers, those obstacles, those hurdles, they start to stick out like a sore thumb. We call those issues. And successful people, just like successful businesses, are just really good at solving their own problems. So we're going to build that issue-solving muscle in your business. Next is process. And when I talk about process, a lot of times entrepreneurs roll their eyes. I know, process is maybe not wildly interesting, but to the extent you can systemize your business and create almost like a franchise prototype about how you're going to scale up your business, you'll be more profitable, you'll be delivering a consistent service, and you'll also be having more fun because you're not answering the same 10 questions 3 times a day. And then finally, directly opposite vision is traction, and it's not a coincidence because vision without traction is just hallucination. And we're not here today to just talk about what we want to do with our business. We want to gain traction towards actually making it happen. So there you go. Those are the 6 key components. I'm going to come back. I'm going to walk you through the 2 disciplines and what strong for each component actually looks like in a business. I'll share with you some examples of businesses I've worked in or clients I've served. Everything we're going to talk about today, it's not, high-level academic methodology. This is real-world, practical, proven tools. All right. So without any further ado, we have a lot of work to do, ladies. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to progress now to the page number 4 called Vision Traction Organizer. What we're going to talk about here with vision is first the ability to answer in unison 8 key questions about your business. So what are those questions? What are your core values? What's your core focus? Your 10-year target? Your marketing plan? Your 3-year picture? Your 1-year plan? Your quarterly rocks? And your issues list. We're going to walk through all of those today. It's a lot to cover, so I hope you're caffeinated. All right. The value in answering these 8 questions, I can't hit this home enough. It's not so much just initially answering them, it's getting them answered in unison. I cannot tell you how many teams I see where everyone has a slightly different view of where the company should go and how it should get there. And if we all have a different goal, how do we ever expect to end up at the same place? So the value here is buy-in and unison and communication. All right, let's jump right in, and I want to have a discussion about core values. So everybody knows about core values. I know, they're a little bit used and abused, and their perceived value has really diminished. But I have to tell you, when used appropriately, core values are just as important as ever, even more so. Core values tell you who you are as a people. They explain why you're attracted to work with other professionals. They make the foundation of your culture. Core values are not just something you put up on your conference wall and walk by every day. If you're doing that, you're just overpaying for artwork. Core values should have what I call teeth. You should be hiring around your core values. You should make firing choices around those core values. And you should be recruiting and retaining people around these core values. And if you're not, it's really just more like lip service, and you're robbing yourself of the value of core values. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about what the core values are for your business. We're going to make this very much about you today. So don't feel like you have to be taking a lot of notes about the content. We give away this content. It's free. It's all out there on the eosworldwide.com website. We help first. That's one of my core values. So don't feel like you have to take a lot of notes on content. Be thinking about you. What are 3 core values that you feel are true to your organization? Just to kind of get the ball rolling, a few of mine are grow or die. So I always want to be learning and getting better. Help first and do what you say. Now, if you're stuck, you can flip to page 6. There's a few to kind of get the juices flowing. But let's take a minute to quietly jot down 3. And I'd like to also introduce Megan Allered and Mark Henderson Leary. The three of us are going to walk around and we'll be available to answer any questions you might have as you think through your 3 core values. And it's got to be minimum of 3, because you'll see in just a minute we're going to really bring this to life. And you'll need 3 for an exercise we'll get to next. All right, go ahead and start thinking through those. So as you're thinking through your core values, I want to share a couple particular cases that might help you refine what your core values are. So I have this one client, they're fascinating. It's 2 MIT grads. National security is their industry. And so, they're really competitive. They have this intense drive to win. And when we thought about the context of what kind of people do we want in this organization, and who are we as people, we settled on the core value achieve, because we didn't want to be competitive at all costs. We didn't want to be cutthroat. We didn't want to be unethical, but we were passionate about achievement. That's one. I've got another company, Pinot's Palette. You may have been there for a ladies' night out or a date night. And they're all about having fun. If their clients aren't having fun, clients aren't coming back, right? So for them, one of their core values is have fun. You don't see that in business all the time, but I mention it because it's really unique to you and your business. So don't hide it, just put it out there, open and honest. You'll get better people for it. All right, I'd like you to now go around the table. I hope you're not feeling rushed. So if you need another minute, you can take it. But let's go around the table and pick one of your core values and share it with the ladies at your table. And Mark and Megan and I will continue to walk around in case you have any questions about picking at least 3 core values for our exercise in just a minute. But pick one to share with your table. I love the discussion, ladies. Thank you. Let's have one more minute to wrap up. Okay, such phenomenal discussion. Thank you, ladies. We've got a ton to go through, so please forgive me if I have to ask you to wrap up the core values discussion so we can continue working through these 8 questions. So now I want to talk about core focus. Core focus is like the sweet spot on a tennis racket if you play tennis or any kind of sports. So in other words, the face of the racket is large and the sweet spot is small. And when you hit the ball, right in the middle of the sweet spot, the ball is going to go farther, faster, straighter. So when you as an organization operate in your core focus, you gain that same power. So core focus is composed of 2 hemispheres. And to simplify it, I kind of call it the why and the what. So the why, hemisphere number 1, is your purpose, cause, or passion. So in other words, it's why you exist as an organization. This is an emotional thing. There's no logic in this. It's really just more about what gets you out of bed in the morning. So I have one client, they're a global franchise. For them, it's to empower other entrepreneurs. Another company, they do private wealth management. Theirs is to help clients find their ideal life. So you'll notice you have no idea what these businesses do based on their purpose, cause, or passion, or their why, because it doesn't explain your business. It explains kind of the heart behind your business. So be thinking about the why for you. And then the second part of the hemisphere is your niche. So I want you to ask yourself, in relation to your business, what do you have superior skill to do? So as a business, when you do it, you excel at it, you get energy from it. All right, so it's the combination of the why and the what that really make up your core focus. And some examples on the what side, or the niche side, are very specific. So when you hear a niche, you know what your business does, right? Maybe it's commercial or residential cleaning. Maybe it's financial planning and advice. Maybe it's organic pet food products, or PR and social media, or market communications. So I want you to think through those 2 hemispheres, start making some notes. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go back to that earlier point that the power is about the agreement. You and your leadership team must agree what your core focus is on. You must agree about your sweet spot, because as you go forward, that discipline to stay laser focused is going to be so important to your success. And we as entrepreneurs, we already have it in our DNA that we like to get distracted by what we like to call shiny stuff, right? It's just, we're built that way. A new opportunity, a new venue. But when we turn our heads as leaders, the rest of the organization turns their head as well. And then we've taken our eye off the ball. So the core focus can be a tool, a guiding principle almost. You can pass ideas through this core focus to make sure you're not taking your eye off the ball. All right, and the last thing I want to say about this, because we have some early stage businesses here. We have businesses in all stages. When you're either starting up or you're trying to make a big pivot and really grow your business, it's super tempting to stray from your core focus because you want to say yes to your customers. They ask you for things you don't do, but you really want the business, right? And you have all of these plans to grow and succeed, and so you compromise on your core focus. And then what happens is you're trying to be everything to everyone, and you have utterly taken your eye off the ball. So I want you to think through this core focus and use it like a tool so that we make sure we're spending our time, our energy, and our resources on the right things that are going to grow our business. So take some time to jot down some ideas. You're not going to finish all of it today, but some rough draft ideas, you can come back and fill it in and think on it and wordsmith a little bit more later. Okay? That is core focus. I'll give you just a minute or two more to take down a few notes, and then we're going to move on. Test. All right, guys. Hopefully you've had some time to jot down a few notes there. Now I want you to take that phrase that you wrote down on the notes page from page 1 about what you want for your business, and I want you to carry that forward to this section called 10-year target on your vision traction organizer on page 4. So carry forward the answer to that question of what it is that you want from your business. And as you do that, remind yourself you pick the time horizon, you pick the time frame, but it's got to be one thing, and it needs to be out on the horizon. And there's such power in this. There's such power in having a big goal out on the horizon, especially when we share it with our people, because it creates some passion and some alignment about where we're taking this company. And they can decide if they want to be a part of this or not, right? But full transparency, this is where this bus is headed. Are you on it or not? And as Yogi Berra says, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up somewhere else. Okay, because there is such power in sharing these big goals on the horizon, let's indulge ourselves and let's take 2 minutes to go around the table, and I want you to share with each other what your target is. So it should be about 1 sentence long. Share your target. Let's encourage each other.
About to be a freshman, but he's already wanting to college classes he's going to take. I'm on the board to be a part of Daddy's business and one day take over. So we have to get this going. And Christina, our very first, we've been in business for a year. The very first employee, single mom, and to get her out of the life that she was. Thing that keeps us going is we're helping Christina and her daughter.
Thank you for sharing. As you write these targets down, make sure to be making them really specific and measurable. And here's why. If it's a little bit too vague, a little bit too broad, it's going to be really hard to know when we've reached it. And I want you ladies to all reach that target. So make sure that we've picked a target that is specific and we know what it looks like when we get there. But I love hearing your stories. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, let's move on. Next, I want to talk about your marketing strategy. And this is all about getting laser focused around your sales and marketing efforts. We're going to answer 4 very specific questions. So who is your ideal target? What are your 3 uniques, your proven process, and your guarantee? Okay, so what I mean by ideal client is really the geographic, demographic, psychographic profile of your number 1 client you're going after. So not necessarily all the clients you serve, but if you had to be really narrow and specific, who are they? What are they? Where do they live? How do they make purchasing decisions? Go ahead and jot down some ideas. A bullet point list is fine here. The more specific and narrow we can be, the better we can communicate to that very focused group of people or businesses. And once you have that very focused list of people or businesses, you can start to build out a list. Now you know who you need to get in front of. And the next thing you need to know is what you're going to tell them. What makes you unique? What differentiates your cleaning business from another cleaning business, or your PR company from another PR company? Now you'll notice it's called the 3 uniques. Think of this as value proposition or differentiators. And there's 3 on purpose, because there might be a competitor or 2 that does 1 or 2 things like you, but there should be no other business that does that unique combination of all 3 things. So it is what makes you unique. It is why that target customer that you just defined is going to pick you over your competitors. Take a few minutes to jot that down. All right, so we can all learn a little bit more about each other today and share ideas and collaborate. Let's share in 1 sentence, so try to keep it really concise, ladies, because I don't want to rob you of any of our time together to cover a lot of content. But in 1 sentence, share one of your 3 uniques with your table. We'll have just 1 minute for this, please. All right, wonderful discussion. Thank you, ladies. So now I want to talk about proven process. You see it's just a little line there under marketing strategy. If you're following along, we're at the bottom left-hand side, page 4. So proven process, it's really a sales tool. About half my clients use one, and it suits them and it serves them really well, and half don't. So you ask yourself if it's right for you. But proven process is a one-page visual description of how you're going to deliver your product or service. And it's a sales tool because it shows your clients you have thought through the process that you are going to walk them through to give them a fantastic experience or deliver the best product. So think through if there's step-by-step that you can articulate that is going to make them feel 100% confident in your ability to give them exactly what they need. And then the next part is the guarantee. And the guarantee is all about one thing, and it's fear. You need to get to the root of the fear that your target client has to say yes to you. And then you've got to wrap a guarantee around it. And maybe it's not a full guarantee, because I get it, not all businesses can offer a full guarantee. Maybe it's a revolutionary promise or a commitment or a pledge. But think of that fear that the client has when they're trying to pick who they're going to work with. Get to the root of it, and then wrap your guarantee, your pledge, your commitment, or your promise around it, making them feel comfortable to move forward with you. All right, you can jot down an idea or two, but I've got to keep moving, so I make sure I can get you through all the material today. So next I want to talk about a 3-year picture. And the discipline here is just to get out of your head and down onto paper what your business is going to look like in 3 short years, because it'll be here before we know it. And so I'm saying picture on purpose, because leaders, we know in our head what we want our business to look like, but we don't always communicate it with others. So what I want you to do is I want you to paint that picture in full color of what your business looks like in 3 years. I want you to start with some basics like revenue and profit. You might not know it now, you can come back to it, that's okay. I want you to describe a measurable, like how many widgets you're producing, or how many clients you've served, how many houses you're cleaning, whatever it is that is relevant to you. If you're manufacturing, if it's a skincare product line, maybe it's number of products sold per year. You guys tell me, but think through those revenue, profit, and one measurable, and then I want you to describe that picture in 5 to 15 bullet points. Things like, how many employees are you going to have? Are you going to be in different geographical market areas? Will you be officing out of the same place? Will you be offering new products, new services? Think through that and take some notes on the section entitled 3-year picture. And hopefully it's a little bit more clear to you now, because we've talked about who we are with our core values. We've talked about what we are with our core focus, where we're going with that target on the horizon, and then now we're talking about how we're going to get there with the marketing strategy, right? So now that we have all those things kind of percolating in our head, we can do a much better plan of visualizing where we'll be in 3 short years. So take some notes, jot down some ideas. When I used the 3-year picture in one of the businesses that I led, it really helped us visualize and execute our geographic expansion into San Antonio and Austin, and resulted in 260% year-over-year growth in our new markets. If we hadn't sat down and planned it, there is no way we would have achieved that kind of growth. So think through it. And just like we've done some good setup to be able to visualize our 3-year picture, what we're building here is we're building a trajectory. We're building kind of a trend line about where you're taking your business. And so now we can do much better 1-year planning. So as you wrap up your bullet points on the 3-year picture, I want you to now turn your attention to the 1-year plan. And you'll see it starts off the exact same way. Revenue, profit, give me a measurable. And then you'll notice that there's 3 to 7 spaces there. Notice there's not 27, please. Because as women, we who are fantastic multitaskers, I know we love to take on lots of projects, but I want you to be fair to yourself. And more importantly, I want you to make the smart choices for your business. Because if we put 27 things down there, ladies, what we're saying is that everything is important. And everything is not important. We need to prioritize, and we need to say what 3 to 7 things are going to take our business to the next level. I want you to think about that 3-year picture. What has to happen in the next year so that you're on the trajectory or the trend line to make that 3-year picture. And then make that big target out on the horizon, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So think through that. What 3 to 7 things have to happen in the next year? I get a lot of questions here. I get a lot of questions around what kind of goal should I set? And there's two sort of camps I've noticed around goal setting. There's the camp that sort of sets them to hit them. We've put some logic behind it. Maybe there's a spreadsheet. And then there's this other camp that's really reach for the stars. And so neither is right or wrong. You decide what's right for you, but what I will say is if you put some logic to your growth plans and to your goals, if you set them to hit them, so they say, then if you miss it or you go a little bit over, it's much clearer and easier to understand why. If you set a goal that's really more reach for the stars and you kind of know you're not going to hit it, but you set it anyway, it's much harder to analyze, why did I miss that goal? And we have to analyze it because if we ever miss our goal or if we ever do better, we must know why. We have to be detectives around our own business. So put some thought to it when you're setting that revenue and that profit goal, when you're thinking about the goals for the next year, try to set them to hit them. And some examples of one-year goals could be things like maybe you want to launch a new product. Maybe you want to sell to an expanded geographic area or a new client that you haven't served before. Or maybe it's implementing a new accounting system. Take a minute to refine your 3 to 7. And then when you're ready, in 1 sentence or less, I want you to share that one-year goal at your table. Thank you, ladies. I'm hearing some fantastic goals out there. Please challenge yourself to make them really specific. If you're building a team of how many people? If you're expanding, where to? If you're launching a social media presence, what does that mean? Does it mean one post a week, one a month? All right, thanks, ladies. All right, we are on to number 7. And I do apologize if I'm pulling you through this a little fast, but so far everyone is keeping up, and I want to make sure you're not robbed of any content. So now I want to talk about this crazy thing we call rocks, and you're probably asking, what? Rocks? Did I hear her right? But yes, I'm talking about rocks. So Stephen Covey has this fantastic analogy in his concept around putting first things first. And I see this a lot in businesses. We get so tied up with, answering client phone calls and responding to emails and dealing with the day-to-day, and you sit down to do something and then an employee comes in to ask you a question. They say it'll take 2 minutes. It never takes 2 minutes, right? So we just get distracted with all these things and we forget to do the big, important things that actually move our business forward. And sometimes when we set goals, the time horizon, like our 1-year goal, it's so far out there that we keep telling ourselves, I'll worry about that next month, right? I'll start that next month. So we want to work with our natural human attention span, that we're just natural procrastinators. And if we know that, we can work around it. So we want to create a 90-day goal. We call that a rock because it's like pushing that rock forward, right? Putting first things first. So we want to create a 90-day goal. And it has to be, again, aligned with what's on your 1-year plan. So look at your 1-year plan and think about, how can I break this up? That 1-year goal, it might be kind of overwhelming. So take a little chunk out of it, break it up. What are you going to do in the next 90 days that assures you're on the path to completing that 1-year goal? And I'll give you a few examples of what I mean. So we had the example of you might want to launch a new product. Well, maybe your 90-day goal is to take the initial steps towards launching that product. Like maybe you run a customer focus group, or you get feedback on your first prototype or your first few products. If you're trying to get into a new market area or sell to a new client, maybe your first 90-day goal is to come up with marketing and sales initiatives so that you'll be ready to sell to them in the coming quarters, so that you'll generate those leads and that interest, right? Or maybe if you need a new accounting system by year end, your 90-day goal is to select the vendor. So think through how you can break up those bigger 1-year goals into 90-day chunks, creating a 90-day world for your organization, where you're looking out ahead and you're predicting what you have to get done to move your business forward. And again, the discipline here is that less is more. If you give yourself so many quarterly rocks that it's not possible to still return client emails and get your rocks done, then it's counterproductive, right? So less is more should be only those things that have to get done in the next quarter to move your business to the next level. All right, so it's okay if you're still writing. You can always come back to it and add more later. What I want to talk about next is issues. We all have them. No organization is perfect. What we want to do is we want to get to the point where everyone is open and honest about the issues in their organization. It's almost just good therapy to get it out, right? And sometimes our employees are afraid to come to us with issues if they don't have a solution. But we need to turn that on its head. We have to know what we're up against. So we want to be asking, what are our issues? What are our hurdles, our barriers? What are our customers not happy about? Get it out there, write it down on paper. Good therapy in doing that. And then we know what we're up against. So if you have any burning issues, take a minute to write it down. Okay, ladies, you have answered the 8 questions. And that's huge, but I have to tell you that's only half the battle. Now that you have these 8 questions answered, we have to make sure that they are shared by all. Everyone in the organization knows where this organization is going. They know your core values. They're clear on your target. And the best discipline for this, to get those 8 questions really shared by all, is to communicate them frequently and often. And we get so tied up with business and dealing with customer issues and employee issues. Put yourself on a quarterly schedule. Give a quarterly update. I don't care if your business is just you. You prepare a quarterly update. If it's you and 2 people, they still want to know. And we've got to review important things like, how do we do in the last quarter? Where are we now, and where are we going? So we call this a quarterly state of the company. And no matter the size of your organization, it's a wonderful opportunity to talk about where the business is going, remind everyone of those core values, make sure that we're tied into our core focus, we're following our marketing strategy. All right, so that's the second discipline, to make sure that it's shared by all. And what 100% strong in the vision component looks like is you have an answer to those 8 questions, and everyone in your organization is clear on the answer. Alignment, always back to alignment. Now I'm going to move on to people. This is always an interesting one. So if you're following along in your workbook, we're on page 7 now, and I want to walk you through a simple but powerful tool called the People Analyzer. This is our tool to deal with, make sure we've got the right people in our organization. And so on the People Analyzer, you can see mine up here. You can see my core values along the top. So I want you to copy in your core values that you wrote on page 4 on the Vision Traction Organizer. Go ahead and copy those here onto page 7. And I'm going to walk you through this example while you do that. So here you can see I've got some names on the left-hand side. So these are sample employees. But really, the reason I'm showing you this example is because it's so powerful to be able to objectively assess your people. It's really hard to remove the emotion, the personal relationships, the history you may have with your employees. But as leaders, we have to do that. We have to make those difficult decisions. So I'm going to give you a tool to use in your toolbox to analyze your people. So we have our core values written up top, and then you can see the names here. And now we're going to add ratings. So hang on just a minute. You don't have to rate anyone yet. Just let me set it up for you. But a plus means that the person exhibits the core value almost all the time. So for example, if help first is the core value, it means almost all the time they are willing to help clients and employees and vendors first. Then minus means they rarely exhibit that core value. And plus minus means they sometimes do, they sometimes don't. So kind of depends on what side of the bed they wake up in the morning. I don't know if you ever had an employee like that, but I did. All right, so what I want to talk about now is it's great to have this rating system and to be able to rate people against their core values, but it means nothing unless we have a bar established. And what I mean by bar is like a minimum acceptable standard for what we're going to accept in our organization. So in this example, where we have 5 core values, the bar is you got to have at least 3 pluses. You can have 2 plus minuses, but we're not putting up with a minus in this organization. So you think through what your bar would be. You've got your core values written up there. Go ahead and fill in your bar. Now, I get this question a lot, so I'm just going to preempt it. It doesn't matter that there's a plus under one specific core value. It's really just 3 pluses in total, 2 plus minuses. But that's my bar. You decide on your bar. Set your bar. And then when you've thought through that, we're going to actually put this exercise into play. And forgive me if I'm a little direct here, but we're just going to get right down to business. Go ahead and put your highest performing employee under name and your lowest performing employee. And if you are a company of me, myself, and I, put yourself. You're going to rate yourself today. That's healthy, right? Open and honest. Now I want you to rate the names listed there. Take a minute to do that, please. So as you're doing that, the importance here is that we're communicating core values. We can now objectively assess our people, but where we see they are not meeting the bar, it's up to us to communicate that to them. And when we share with people, you're really above the bar in these areas, but I gotta get you to work on this core value. Here are some examples of how you're not meeting this core value. And you're encouraging them and you're challenging them to rise up to reach and surpass the bar. You'll be amazed, some of your employees will. When you communicate what's important to you, what your core values are, they will rise up to that bar, and some of them will not. And so if you've coached them, you've worked with them, and they're still not coming up above the bar, I think you all know the answer to that problem, right? Yeah. Because the longer we keep people in our organization that don't share our core values, the more we allow them to chip away at our culture every day. Okay, so that's our tool for right people. Anytime you have a people issue, anytime somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do, they're not playing nice with the team, what have you, you pull out this people analyzer and you use it as a tool and you communicate to your people where they need to work on things. All right, that's our tool for people, right people. Now I want to move on to right seats. And I want to talk to you about an important tool we call the accountability chart. And so the accountability chart, I believe, is on page 8 in your workbook. And I urge you to take a step back from your business. Just like Christina mentioned, we're going to be spending some time today working and thinking on the business, not in the business. So take a step back and kind of consider yourself like the board of directors of your business today. And I want you to think about the clearest and simplest way to organize your business around the major business functions. I think the batteries are low. Not sure if you have some extra batteries. Okay. So the first major function we usually see is sales and marketing. Sometimes it's split up into 2. That's fine. These are just kind of the generic business units of any business. Next is operations, and then finance. Now you're going to customize this for your business. You might have IT up there as a major business function. You might split ops out to 2 boxes. You decide, but try to keep it to about 3 to 7, thinking of the simplest way to structure your business. And by the way, notice I've used the word structure about 3 times, and I haven't used the words name once. Don't be thinking about names. I don't want you to think about how your business is structured today or the people in your business. We want to think about structure first. We'll come to people next. Only after we've thought through the best structure, the simplest, most streamlined way to organize our business. Now, every company has a box above those major business functions that in EOS terminology we call an integrator. And an integrator is the person who's running the business. They're keeping the trains running on time, they're coordinating everybody's efforts, they're leading special projects, they're making sure the business gets done. About half of our clients have this other box up there. And this other box, we call it the visionary box. And the visionary could not be more different than the integrator. A visionary, usually the founder, is somebody who has 20 new ideas a week. They love dealing with culture. They generally own the big relationships. They tend to make decisions more on emotion, whereas the integrator is making decisions more on logic. They love getting the job done. They love executing. The visionary wants to give the broad overall vision of the company. The integrator makes it happen. So think through if this dynamic exists in your organization. And if it does, we have to be super crystal clear about who is responsible for what. Not just between the visionary and the integrator, but between every single business unit. So we want to start in your mind or on your notes page there. Start kind of crafting out how your accountability chart would look like and start thinking about the roles and responsibilities for each major function. Try to keep it kind of simple. Keep it around 5 if you can, but it has to be crystal clear. Because what we're doing here is we're making sure everybody knows what they're accountable for. And we're segregating it out so that there's no misunderstanding. Oh, I didn't know that I was responsible for that. We don't want that to happen here, right? So very organized, clear lines around accountability. Okay. Now that we've done that, now that we've built the structure that's best for the greater good of our business, now and only now do we start thinking about, okay, who is best to own what accountability or who is best to sit in what seat? And in order to do that, we use a tool called GWC, which just stands for Get It, Want It, and Have a Capacity to Do It. And so what I mean by that is before you write a name in any seat on your accountability chart, you have to be open and honest and ask yourself, does that person get what's needed for the role? You wrote down the roles and responsibilities first. So be honest with yourself and ask, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they really want to do this job? And do they want to do it for more than just a month or 2? And then do they have the capacity to do it? And what I mean by capacity is the emotional, intellectual, physical capacity to do the job well. So we ask ourselves those 3 questions. You've got a page in your workbook about it. You can always refer to later, so don't feel like you have to take a lot of notes here. But we have to ask ourselves these questions. And when we do, we can go back to the people analyzer and we can add it in here. Get it, want it, capacity to do it. But unlike the people analyzer, where somebody can maybe have a plus minus, there is no plus minus in get it, want it, capacity to do it. It's either yes or no. And it has to be a yes. If you have people in your organization who don't get their job, don't want their job, or don't have the capacity to do it, they're not in the right seat. They're not the right people for you. And they're dragging your business down. Now, the only time you can maybe have a no up there, this thing is crazy. All right, it's okay. It just keeps it interesting, right, ladies? So the only time you can have a no up there is maybe under get it if you've got somebody who's new. Because we have to give them time to get the role, right? They're not going to get it on day 1. But you have to decide what is a reasonable time frame in which they need to get the role. So when we start to put people in boxes, there's 2 problems we can run into. And the first is, after we've people analyzed them, we realize they're just not the right person for our business. And we have to ask ourselves, is there anything we've done? Have we failed them? We have to give them the opportunity to rise up to that bar. But if after coaching and communication they haven't, then that's not the right person for your business. And they would be happier elsewhere. They're just not a good fit for you. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, doesn't mean they're not smart, but they're not right for you. And then the second problem is we've got somebody in the wrong seat. Maybe they definitely share your core values, they fit you like a glove, but they're just not performing in their current seat. Well, the first thing you can do is try to move them around. If it's someone who you feel really gets your vision, really shares your values, try to find them another box on the accountability chart, but please do not draw them a new box. We cannot draw new boxes to suit people's preferences about what they want to do, because we have a responsibility to put the greater good of the business first. Okay, thank you. So 100% strong in the people component means we have everyone in our organization, right person, right seat. If you're a 10-person organization, that's 10 out of 10. You gotta have both. If you're a one-person organization, same rules apply. Gotta have the right person in the right seat. And by the way, because I know there are a few of us out there where we're wearing all the hats right now, we're in all the boxes. We might not want to be in all the boxes, but that's what we have to do when we start our business, right? It's only us. The accountability chart is also super helpful for you because, just like Christina was talking about, you need to outsource some things as you grow so that you can spend time on the most important things. I want you to be asking yourself, which of those boxes am I going to move out of first? As soon as I can either afford to hire someone or outsource it or find a technological solution to take care of that. So be using the accountability chart to help you grow in a responsible way and to position you as the leader to be in the situation where you're adding the most value, the most impact to your business based on what your unique abilities are. If it's sales, you do not need to be balancing the checkbooks, right? Hire someone to do that so you can be out in the field bringing in revenue. So ask yourself where your unique ability lies and do yourself the favor to think through how you're going to allow yourself to only focus on that as your business grows. All right. Now let's move on to data. So with data, I want to tell a funny story. So imagine you're on an airplane, you're flying over the Atlantic, and the pilot comes on a loudspeaker, and he says, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is that all the gauges are broken, so I cannot tell you which direction we're flying, our altitude, or how fast we're going. But the good news is I'm really sure we're making great time. And it's just like how a lot of businesses are run. We're working really hard, right? We're really busy, but nobody is checking the gauges. We're not following up to make sure we're actually spending the time in the right areas, that we're solving our problems, that we know the direction of the plane. So what I want for you is I want you to get a weekly pulse on your business through the use of a scorecard. Scorecard is just another fancy word for lots of numbers that tell you how your business is doing. So think of it like KPIs, metrics, dashboards, any of these other buzzwords you've heard. We just call it a scorecard to keep it simple. And when you're using a scorecard, we focus on the activities that drive our business. We want to get ahead of things while, for example, if it's a small trash can fire before it turns into a big factory fire. So we want to be watching things like, how's our sales pipeline? How's our cash? We want to be able to have the assurance that we know how our business is going every week. Now, some example measurables you'll see are listed for you there on page 11. As you read through these, I want you to start asking yourself, what are the right measurables for your business? Utilization. If you're a manufacturing business, how busy are you keeping your factory? If you're a consulting business, What are your billable hours at? But looking ahead at, if you know you need 3 new clients a week to be able to grow your business, well, how many proposals do you have to make to get those 3 clients? And then ask yourself, am I hitting that number? So there's got to be a goal. You can see next to measurable is a column for goal. We need to know, relatively speaking, how do we do? So go back through, and as you're jotting down those measurables, maybe take a rough draft estimate at what the goal should be. And then you'll notice that there's several columns to the right that list out what the number was for prior weeks. And that's huge, because we've got to be watching the trends. We need to know, is this a one-time fluke that my cash is kind of low, or is this a trend and I need to make some tough choices and put the greater good of my business first? So make sure you are using 13 weeks rolling of data. Keep that old data, don't erase it, it's so valuable. Helps you understand some cyclicality in your business. And then there's another column I haven't talked about yet, but it's the most important column up there, and it's the column that says who. So when your number is above or below goal, you need one set of eyeballs to turn to and say, what happened? Or, fantastic job. We need to know, right? One person has to own that number. And by own it, I don't mean be the person to write it in on the scorecard, but I mean the person who is accountable for it. Because EOS does nothing if not build accountability in the organization. So people need to be crystal clear on what they own, what they're responsible for. And the scorecard is just one of the many ways we let them know what that is. Okay. So hopefully you have jotted down a few measurables that make sense for your business. Scorecard's kind of a tricky thing. It takes a while to get it just right. So let's help each other. Let's learn from each other. And I want you to share one measurable with the people seated at your table. One measurable. Try not to go into too much depth about explaining it. Just one sentence, one measurable shared at your table. And don't forget to ask Megan and Mark and I questions if you have them.
I want to give you a second chance to even make it up to me. Like they say, first impression is the best impression. Customer service, do what you say you're going to do. Not only that, oh, okay. Not only that, when you're giving customer service, I'm expecting one thing. When you call customer service, one person tells you one thing, and you can call back. They'll transfer you, and somebody will say something else. They're no. So customer service makes a break the company when it comes to external. They do it at the fast food restaurants. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I get it. Yeah, give it time. We're doing a school thing to pick one of the measurables from the scoreboard. Okay. I guess we're gonna take in my business. One of the most important things we have a kitchen table appointments. How many people have I set for expectations with? Usually we want to have eight appointments that 5 will come in. And so during that week, eight appointments, 8 kitchen table appointments. That's big. You know, it's not working like
been in sales for over 20 years. It's a number. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're
Hot beef kettle. I can feel you.
get in front of, it increases your average. Every no gets you closer to it.
And my measurable
So
will be 3 cells.
you're doing face-to-face pitching.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Any questions here? You guys good? We're good. Yes? All right, great discussion. Really good example came out of this lovely table over here. I want to measure customer satisfaction. But that's kind of qualitative, right? So we got to boil everything down to a number. We had a great solution to do that over here. So boiling down those important drivers on your business to one number and then knowing what to compare it to. It's like the essence of just make it black and white, right? Make it crystal clear, easy to understand. One page. And the last thing I'm going to mention on this is I'm just going to make a plea for simplicity. Because please don't put 20 numbers up there. Please try to keep it to 5 or 15. If you have a whole page full of numbers, and then don't forget, you're going to be comparing week over week. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Your eyes are just going to glaze over. No one can process all of those data points. Keep it simple, keep it clear. 5 to 15 measurables, but less is more. 5 is better. You can make it nice and visual, display it in red if it's below goal, green if it's above. So it's really easy at just a moment's glance to get a pulse on your business. All right, so that's scorecard. Let's move on. We're going to talk about the second discipline for data, and that's measurables. So measurables are the essence of clear understanding to our employees. So every person in your organization should have a number. And if you're a business of me, myself, and I, you should give yourself a number. Lots of companies are great at giving salespeople numbers, right? Like a quota. Well, that's easy, but everyone needs a number. So somebody who works in accounting, maybe it's number of invoices processed. Somebody who's answering the phone or the emails, maybe it's their response time. But think through and boil it down to 1 to 3 numbers that they need to do on a daily or weekly basis so that we've given them the metrics to succeed. A lot of times our employees want to help, they want to do well, they want to please us, but they're not really quite sure on how to do that. Or they think that they should spend time on certain things because they think it'll add value, but you know it's not adding value. Well, this is a really clear and easy way to show them, this is what I want you to do. So think through what that is. 100% strong in the data component means you've got a scorecard that's working for you. It gives you a weekly pulse on your business. And then you have measurables for each and every employee so that they know their role in helping. Okay, so now that vision, people, and data are strong, and by the way, you guys are doing fantastic. The rest is going to go a lot quicker, so thank you for bearing with me. The energy level is still really high. I appreciate that. It's a lot of content, I know, so thank you. But now that these 3 top areas are strong, now those things that stick out like a sore thumb, those barriers, those obstacles, again, we call them issues. Now I want to come back to this, and let's talk about how to solve our issues. So the first discipline is that we have an issues list at every level of the organization. So what I mean by that is as our organizations grow, we sometimes get farther and farther away from the end customer. But there's value in every level of the organization having access and being encouraged to bring forward issues. So if you've got somebody answering the phones, they might be the first one to know that there's a problem with the website. Or that, clients keep calling up and asking for this service that we don't have that our competitors have. Is anybody looking at that? They might be the first one to know. So ask them and let them know, I'm not expecting you to have all the answers. I just want to know what are our obstacles out there. And as a team, we'll come together and as a team, we'll decide how to tackle it. So the first discipline is just an issues list at every level of the organization. And the next discipline is to solve those issues, right? It's no good if we just make a list. We actually have to do something about it. So the issue solving track, we call it IDS. And it goes like this. Once we have an issue, we know we need to solve it. The first thing we do is we have to identify it. And I know that sounds obvious. Lori, I already identified what the issue is, but I have to tell you that a lot of times employees, they bring us, and I'm sure you know this too, they'll bring us a stated problem, but it's not really the root cause, right? They might not quite have all the information, but as leaders, we have to dig down, we have to find that root cause. And when we find that root cause, we have to bring together all the data points and really understand that issue. A lot of really successful teams, they spend more time discussing and less time really identifying what the true issue is. So they end up solving the wrong issue. So make sure you invest the time to identify. A lot of successful teams, they'll meet, they'll come together, and they'll talk about their issues. And they feel good because they met, right? That's productive. But then they decided we need more data points, or we need more opinions, or we need to think about it, or what have you. And they end up discussing the heck out of it, and nothing gets solved. I don't know about you, but I find that really frustrating. I don't want you guys to go through that frustration. So after we have properly identified our issue, dug down to the root cause, we have to discuss it in a very new and different and unique way. And I'm just going to confess, I'm a talker, so this is really hard for me. I hope you'll be more successful. But you have to share your opinion about how we're going to solve the issue in like 3 to 5 sentences, and that's it. And you have to only speak once. And that's really hard. It's really hard when you try it, but if we've got if this was our leadership team, we'd go around the circle, and each person would say what they think we should do after we've identified the issue, but then you don't talk again. Because if you're talking again without even realizing it, you're really kind of politicking for your own views. And that we're not adding new information to the discussion, because we already got all the information out in the identification phase. So we have to work smarter, we have to be more concise, and we discuss in a very quick, coherent manner, and then we move to solve. And by solve, we come out with an action plan. So we have to-dos, or we have rocks, whatever it is. We have names and dates. So now that we've lined up our issue, we've identified the root cause, we've discussed how we're going to solve it, now we get to the doing. And I don't know about you, but I find that the most rewarding. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to get better? How are we going to surpass this challenge? So we never finish IDSing an issue until we have a clear action plan. So there we go. So 100% strong in the issues component means we have an issues list at all levels of the organization, and we use the issue solving track to effectively and efficiently solve our issues. So now let's move on to process. So with process, the first discipline, you're going to laugh, is just to write it down. It's as simple as that. You would be surprised at how infrequent it is that companies actually write down their processes. I see some heads shaking over here, so maybe a few of you actually have encountered this. But I'm not talking about binders full of processes. Nobody reads a binder, right? If you got a new employee and they start and you hand them, this huge binder, they're going to feel overwhelmed, and they're never going to crack that binder open. So let's be smart with how we spend our time, and let's take a much more entrepreneurial approach to writing processes. Let's document just the 20% that gets us 80% of the results. So high-level processes are like 2 and 3 pages. Because if we're documenting every little potential scenario, we're getting in the weeds, and it's not a good use of our time. And when I talk about core processes, I just mean, the top 6 to 10 processes in your business. Now, every business is going to be different, and at the most basic level, you probably have these core processes. You probably want to have a process for your people. How do you hire and treat your people? How do you generate leads and interest? How do you convert those leads into a paying customer? How do you deliver your product or your service? How do you manage those inflows and outflows? And then when something goes wrong, how do we handle it? And how do we hang on to our clients once we've done the hard work to earn them? So you might have a few more. Think through that. You can jot down some notes on that page there where core processes are listed. But I implore you, you don't have to do it all in one day. You don't have to even do it all in the next 90 days. But start documenting those processes so that when new people come into our organization, they have a playbook. They know the way you want them to do their job. And then the second discipline is that after we've documented those processes, they have to be followed by everyone. Now, when we're documenting them, a really powerful best practice is to let the people who will be executing that process give you feedback. Ask them their opinion. People love to share their opinion. They'll be more engaged. They'll be more likely to follow it. Even if all of their ideas didn't get incorporated, still be more likely to follow it if they got to put in their 2 cents. But once we have agreed on what that process is, once it's all typed up and finalized, everybody has to follow it. Not just the newbies, the employees who've been with you from the beginning. I would see all the time, well, I've been here for 8 years and this is how I've always done it. I appreciate that. Good job, but there's a new way forward, and the new way forward is this. And so everybody needs to be working in the same way, or we just create chaos. If everyone has their own way of doing things, back to that idea of how do we build simplicity and accountability into an organization, we're never going to be simple and accountable with 10 different ways to do the same thing. So we document our processes, and then we make sure they're followed by all. That's what 100% strong in the process component looks like. All right. So now we're going to move on to the final of the 6 key components. We're going to talk about traction. How do you get traction in your business? And the first discipline here, I hate this clicker and I think it hates me back. Okay, the first discipline is to have rocks. Now, we already introduced those rocks before when we talked about Vision Traction Organizer. We introduced rocks for the leadership team. So the discipline here is that once the leadership team has proven we give ourselves rocks and we finish them, you're now leading by example, then we give them to everyone in the organization. And here's why. Back to that concept, people want to know their role in helping. You tell them there's this big goal out here. This is what we're moving towards. And here's something you can do. So we give everybody their role in helping, and we create that 90-day world that we were talking about, because human attention spans are not much longer than 90 days. So we say, this is where we've been, this is where we are, and here's where we're going. Here's your rock to help us get there. So it creates more buy-in, more enthusiasm, and more alignment around your vision to give everybody a rock. And then next are running effective meetings. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you disagree with me, but meetings are like my least favorite part of business until I found this meeting. So I want to talk to you about a bulletproof meeting agenda that makes the best and most efficient use of your time. Because when it's our company and we see a room full of our employees sitting around in a meeting, that's dollar signs going out the window. So if we're not having an effective meeting, we're wasting our own money, and that's frustrating. So let's talk about a super efficient and effective meeting agenda. All right. We call it the Level 10 meeting. You can follow along with me in your workbooks. So the first part is a segue into the meeting. We share good news. This reminds us that we're human. Sometimes we're working so much and running so fast, we forget to say, what's going on in your world? This is your opportunity to do that with your leaders once a week. And when I say leaders, by the way, the attendees for this meeting are your leadership team. It doesn't need to be everyone. It should be the key leaders. And when we meet, we're respectful of everyone's time. We begin by always starting on time. We have this meeting the same day of the week. We start at the same time, we end at the same time, we follow the same agenda, we have the same attendees, just our leadership team, and we come prepared for the meeting. So we've shared our good news, we remind each other that we're human, we work on our interpersonal relationships as a leadership team, but we also don't go on and on about our neighbor's dog, okay? I just have to put it out there. So we keep it to 5 minutes, please, about a minute a person. Then we move on to reporting about what's important. So you built out this beautiful scorecard. It's of no use to you if you don't use it. So once a week, in your weekly level 10 meeting, you pull out that scorecard and you report if you are on track or off track. If you're off track, here is the rub. Somebody is going to want to make excuses or justifications or explain why it's off track. I get that. That's just human nature. But it's really not a good use of our time if we just give updates in a meeting. If we're on track, we don't need to hear about it. If we're off track, we drop it down to our issues list so that we can then prioritize if it's something that we need to deal with, because all issues are not created equally, and we're going to spend our time working on the most impactful issues first. So we report on what's important, on track, off track, no commentary. This is especially hard for salespeople. Okay, next up is the rock review. We gave everybody rocks, and they're due in 90 days, but those rocks are commitments to your team, that you're gonna do what you said you would do. So let's check in, let's create a little bit of healthy peer pressure, and ask each other, is your rock on track or off track? And you have to say to your team, my rock is on track, or my rock is off track. And if your rock is off track, you don't start justifying, you just say off track. And then you drop it down to the issues list again, so that we can prioritize if that's something that we need to deal with. Maybe if it's the first week your rock is off track, you're gonna get it back. But if it's week after week after week that your rock is off track, doesn't look like you're gonna finish that rock. Maybe the team needs to start asking some questions. Do you need extra resources? Are you unclear about the rock? What are you gonna do about it, right? So anyway, so we report on what's important with the scorecard and the rock, on track or off track. And then we move into people headlines. So we don't want this to be a big, long-winded update meeting, but there are gonna be times where we need to keep each other in the loop about what's going on with the business. So for example, if you have an employee issue or a client issue, like an employee issue might be someone's going on maternity leave and everybody needs to know when their last day is. A client issue might be, we have a client that's really happy with us. Yay, let's celebrate that win together as a team. Or, ooh, we really messed up on this client. What are we gonna do about it? So this is your time to do that. Again, you try to keep it quick because we're all together spending time in a meeting room. We need to be efficient with how we use that time. The next is we bring accountability into the meeting with a to-do list. So rocks are the big projects, the things that take anywhere from 3 weeks to 90 days, but there's always gonna be little to-dos that come up when we solve our issues or when there's client issues. To-dos are gonna come out of that, so we capture it right here in this one-page agenda. You literally just insert a line, write them all down. The to-do and the name. To-dos should be finished in about a week or max 2. If 90% of your to-dos are not falling off the list, that's a problem. That's an accountability problem, and we need to address it. So we bring accountability into the meeting by recapping our to-do list, and we ask our people, is that to-do done or not? It's either done or not done. Next, we move on to the most important part of the meeting. You'll notice as these minutes add up that this is going to be a 90-minute meeting, and I realize that sounds like a lot of time, and you might be thinking, Lori, I don't have 90 minutes to take away from the business. But I have to tell you that if you spend the majority of your time reporting on what's important, bringing accountability into the business, and then solving your problems, you are going to save time, not waste it. So we spend 60 full minutes IDSing our issues back to that identify, discuss, and solve. But we do it in a smart way. We line up our issues list and we prioritize it. Now, if your issues list is 15 things, you don't take the time to prioritize all 15, but you point out the top 3. The top 3 that if you could solve those issues, it would make the biggest impact on your business. And then you IDS those issues one at a time. Line them up. Issue number 1, identify, discuss, solve. To-dos are going to come out of that. You add it right back in here, bringing accountability into the meeting. All right, issue number 1 is solved. Move on to issue number 2. Same thing. Identify, discuss, solve. IDS. Get through as many issues as you can. You might not finish them all. That's okay. They can roll over to the next week. But you'll realize at the end of the 60 minutes, you have spent your time in the most effective way because you've spent your time removing obstacles. And as leaders, that's what we're here to do. Remove the obstacles that are standing in the way of our growth. And then you move to conclude. And the way we conclude this perfect meeting agenda includes 3 quick steps. The first is we recap those to-dos because we added some new to-dos. And above all, we want to be fair to our people, so we make sure that they understand. Okay, you said you're going to do this. Got it? Yes. You're going to do this. Yes. So make sure that we're communicating clearly where those to-dos have been assigned. Then we move on to cascading messages. And what I mean by that is that if you've got a leadership team of maybe, 2 or 3 people, but there's another 10 people in the organization, if you decided something in that meeting that is going to affect them, we need to tell them. We need to keep everybody in the loop. So we decide what is that message that needs to be communicated, who is going to communicate it, and by when. And we agree on that as a team. How we solve all of our issues might not involve everyone in the organization, but when it does, when it affects them, we need to keep them in the loop. And then we move on to rate the meeting. And this is, I get kind of funny looks whenever I say this, but a real-time rating on a scale of 1 to 10. And if we get a 7 or below, because 10 is high, 10 is like the perfect meeting. That's why we call it the level 10 meeting. If you get a 7 or below, we ask why, because we truly want to get better. These meetings are not meant to waste our time. These meetings should be effective. And if they're not, we ask why. What could we do better? So there you go. Once a week, start on time, end on time. Leadership team only. We come prepared with our scorecard, with our rocks. And those are the 6 key components of a successful business. 100% strong in the traction area means everyone has a rock, and we're running L10s, getting better and better towards the perfect 10 meeting. All right, so I've just thrown a ton of information at you. I get that. I really do. So I want you to turn to the page that's called Foundational Tools. I've given you the big picture, and I've spent time on what we call the 5 foundational tools that really deliver 80% of the value of adding accountability into your organization and fueling your growth. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, what I'd like you to do is pick one of those 5 foundational tools that you're going to implement in your business this week and circle it and commit that that is where you are going to start. Take a minute to decide, and then I want you to share that commitment with your table. Okay, where are you going to start? Quarterly meeting and an annual one. We don't have time to go into that today, but you got it. And it's also explained in the book Traction. Okay, I love it. I'm hearing lots of people talk about working on their vision, working on their scorecard. I've covered a ton of ground, but what I have to tell you is that we're true to our core values. We help first. And so all of this information is out there. It's free. It's meant to help you. It's at the EOS worldwide website. There's also a best-selling book called Traction, which explains everything about EOS. I brought 4 books. They're my gift to you. If anyone would like to take a book, please do. There's a few different books that explain all about EOS, so there is no shortage of information there. All right, if you need a little bit of extra help, what I do is I work with clients to help walk them through these tools. So you can do it yourself. You can work with a professional who has experience in these tools with lots of different businesses. It's up to you, but you have options. You have options to help build discipline and accountability into your organization, helping you work towards that goal you wrote down on that first notes page when we first started this crazy journey together, and I asked you what it is you want from your business. All right, so there we go. I've walked in your shoes, growing and scaling businesses starting from scratch. It is not easy. It is hairy, difficult work. I hope you found some tools that will help you along your journey. It's been such a pleasure to spend this morning with you ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be over here if you have any questions. Megan and Mark are here as well. Thank you so much.
So lunch is on its way, so please take a break, go to the restroom, come back and visit with all of us. We're going to sit and have lunch with all the different tables. So take a break, come back, please eat lunch, and talk to us and all the different resources that are here in the room.
Do you know if we can get the score? Sorry? Do you know if the scorecard we can get the
We can ask them to find out. Each table will have a little tent.
So lunch is on it. Lunch will be in 10 minutes. They just need to set up.
We'll just talk about it. We'll just talk about it.
Yes. So how did you do the tabletops?